Chapter 580. Leah covered his mouth and chuckled. Meng Meng, guess how old am I? Gu Meng Meng looked at Leah, and eventually shook her head slowly. Damn it, the heavens are so unfair. Compared to Snake and Wabi, those two old demons, Gu Meng Meng no longer dared to judge a person's age based on their appearance. Leah moved his shoulder forward, and leaned his handsome face in front of Gu Meng Meng. His voice was soft and magnetic as he said slowly, Do you mind dating a younger brother? Puffed. Gu Meng Meng looked at Leah in horror. She was 19 this year, and no matter how she thought about it, she felt that if there was a situation of an old cow eating young grass, she should be that young grass, right? Why did she suddenly feel like she was an old cow? Leah was a little disappointed. His tail drooped down and he asked obediently, You can't accept it? It's not that different. Gu Meng Meng patted Lee's shoulder and asked, Leah, tell me honestly, how old are you this year? Leah smiled and squinted his eyes. Call me Daddy Leah, and I will tell you. Gu Meng Meng grabbed Lee's ear and pretended to twist it. If you still want your ear, tell me now. Leah pouted his lips with a wronged expression. 16. Crack. Gu Meng Meng felt as if a bolt of lightning had struck her head. She slowly released her grip and looked at Leah with a complicated gaze. How long had she called a fox, who was 3 years younger than her, Daddy Leah? Leah was 16 this year. So wasn't he only 15 when he started dating her? Did this count? Gu Meng Meng's face fell. She felt that she was a wretched and shameless slut. But Leah covered his mouth and laughed. Isn't a young body much better than that old snake's? Gu Meng Meng looked up and wanted to shout scram. But when she met Lee's long and narrow eyes and combined with his age, Gu Meng Meng could only swallow her anger and say gently, Leah, be good and go play at the side. Leah burst out laughing. Why do you sound like you're coaxing Hada and the rest when you say this? Don't tell me, you really want to acknowledge me as your son? Then can I also eat it? Lee's gaze shifted towards Gu Meng Meng's chest. Gu Meng Meng covered her chest with both hands and shouted, Eat your sister. Little brat, you don't know what's good for you. You're taking advantage of me all day long? Leah laughed even harder. He tilted his head and said, You don't want to be my mother beast, you want to be my sister? Incest, what a heavy taste. But if you like, I can cooperate. Gu Meng Meng gritted her teeth. Being your mother is also incest. Leah nodded with a look of realization. He looked at Gu Meng Meng and said, So you like this kind of style? Gu Meng Meng really wanted to bite off her own tongue. Elvis said with a cold face, Don't mess with her anymore, she'll really get anxious later. Leah shrugged his shoulders and said, All right, don't be conflicted. I'm not 16. I'm 21. Gu Meng Meng glanced sideways and asked, Really? Leah nodded. Gu Meng Meng then heaved a sigh of relief. She suddenly looked up at Leah in a daze and asked, So, who is 16? Leah held back his laughter. Elvis's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Gu Meng Meng turned her neck stiffly and looked at Elvis. Tell me you're not 16, please. Elvis cleared his throat and avoided Gu Meng Meng's gaze. I'm not 16. F*******. Chapter 581. Ever since she knew Elvis's age, Gu Meng Meng could not face him normally. She always looked at Elvis in a daze. But as long as Elvis dared to raise his head to look at her, she would immediately avoid him and become nervous. She was already used to letting Elvis take care of her, but now she was repulsed, such as changing sanitary pads. Elvis was vexed, and he found Leah to be an eyesore. But he knew that Lee's motive for doing so was to buy more time for Gu Meng Meng to stay in their cave, because, if Gu Meng Meng behaved too intimately with them, that pair of eyes staring at them in the dark would not be able to control their jealousy and immediately snatch Gu Meng Meng away from them. And now they did not have the ability to snatch it back. They could only interact once a month, so he could only endure Gu Meng Meng's awkwardness and control his eyes to not look at her. Then, he used every cell in his body to feel her gaze. A week passed by very quickly. When the colorful snakes appeared at the entrance of the cave, Leah and Elvis's eyes dimmed, but they still hung a smile on their faces. They said to Gu Meng Meng, Snake has sent someone to fetch you. Follow these little snakes, and they will bring you back to Snake's cave. Gu Meng Meng nodded her head. Gu Mingming knew that she felt awkward after knowing Elvis's age, so she did not have the chance to be intimate with Elvis during the rare time they spent together. He felt a little apologetic, but also a little reluctant. So she endured her awkwardness and walked to Elvis. She hugged him and said, "Elvis, can you send me over? I want to stay with you a little longer." Elvis's body stiffened for a moment before he dared to hug Gu Mingming back. "You're not allowed to not love me, no matter the reason." Gu Mingming pursed her lips and mumbled, "It's not that I don't love you. It's just that I feel like I've harmed a minor." Elvis bent down and kissed Gu Mingming's lips. He gave her a peck on her lips and said, "Orcs are considered adults when they can transform into human form. I have been an adult for 15 years. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis in shock, blinking her eyes without saying a word. Becoming an adult at the age of 1. Who the hell are you kidding? Gu Mingming thought. What was she doing when she was 1 year old? I can't remember at all. But look at other people's 1-year-old children. They're still sitting in their strollers and biting on their pacifiers. Are you pretending to be an adult in front of me?" Elvis knocked Gu Mingming's little head with his hand and said, "Orcs' time scales and growth patterns are different from your side. Don't compare them recklessly." Gu Mingming rubbed her head in dissatisfaction. "What's the difference? A little wimp will always be a little wimp." Elvis gritted his teeth and said, "Little brat can't make you pregnant, but I can." Gu Mingming blushed and stomped her feet. She turned around with her back facing Elvis, but did not walk away. The words "hurry" and "coax me, I'm angry" were clearly written on the back of her head. Leah also knew that Gu Mingming's awkwardness these few days had made Elvis feel uncomfortable, so he came out to smooth things over. Elvis is right. After an orc transforms, it means that he has reached adulthood. Moreover, the length of our lifespan should not be different from that of your world. Gu Mingming glanced sideways and asked, "Yeah, all of you can live up to 1,000-years-old monster, but I can't." Chapter 582. Gu Mingming did not understand, and tilted her head to wait for Leah to continue. Leah saw that Gu Mingming was no longer angry at Elvis's words, and did not keep her in suspense. He continued, "Under normal circumstances, a 5th-level beast like Elvis can accompany you for the rest of your life, as long as you don't eat him. As for a 3rd-level beast like me, even if I don't die in battle or get eaten by you, I can only live for about 30 years. I'm 21 this year, and if I take good care of myself, Gu Mingming, I can still accompany you for 10 years. Gu Mingming was stunned, and her expression turned solemn. 10 years? Was Li's life already starting to count down? Gu Mingming bit her lower lip and asked timidly, "You are lying to me, right? How can there only be a 30-year beast? The people in my world look much weaker than you guys, and it's not a problem for them to live to 70 or 80 years old." Leah smiled brightly, as if he did not care about death. He said calmly, "Males who are not accepted by females are equivalent to being eliminated weaklings. There's no need for them to exist. So normally, males who are over 10 years old and have not found a partner will voluntarily join the family of some females to become food reserves. To them, being able to let the females they like survive the harsh winter is the greatest value of their lives." Gu Mingming said, "But I have accepted you. Aren't you my beast pet?" Leah chuckled and could not hide the envy in his eyes. He looked at Gu Mingming's exposed collarbone and said, "An acceptance without a mark will not be acknowledged by the beast deity. But it's all right, even if it's only 10 years. I will still protect you well." Hiss hiss hiss, the little snake made a urging sound. Gu Mingming wanted to say something, but Leah rubbed her head and said, "Don't pity me so easily. I don't think a 10-year life is as miserable as Snakel's long and unfocused life. Unless you plan to abandon me in these 10 years. Gu Mingming shook her head. She had mixed feelings and did not know what to say. Hiss hiss hiss. The colorful little snake raised its upper body, and the urging became even more obvious. Leah and Elvis exchanged glances and nodded. He gently turned Gu Mingming's shoulders and pushed her towards the entrance of the cave. "If you don't leave now, Snake will never let you come back to stay in the future." "But, no buts, Elvis and I will continue to work hard for Hutta, and the other two. I will see to the food, and tried to make it as exquisite as possible for you. If there's anything you want to eat, you can tell the little snakes in the cave. They'll tell me." When she turned back, Leah and Elvis were already standing side by side at the entrance of the cave, watching her leave. Gu Mengmeng hung her head dejectedly and did not say anything else. She just followed the colorful little snake towards Snake's cave. She was still afraid of snakes, so she didn't dare to get too close to them. The little snakes seemed to know that she was afraid of them, so as long as she did not leave a certain range, they would not show any dangerous movements. "Gu Mengmeng." A female voice sounded in the middle of the journey, blocking Gu Mengmeng's path. Looking up, Gu Mengmeng squinted her eyes. There was a female standing against the light at a high place. She could not see her face clearly, but her voice sounded familiar. Chapter 583. Who are you? Gu Mengmeng used one hand to block the sunlight and asked with squinted eyes. That female laughed coldly, then pulled the vine in her hand and said, "You can't recognize me, and can't recognize your own sons?" Gu Mengmeng could tell that the 3 balls were her sons, just by looking at the shadows against the light. "Ellie!" Gu Mengmeng was very surprised. She should have been able to recognize from the voice, but the female standing in front of her was clearly a complete female, and did not have that iconic snake tail. This made her stunned for a moment. Gu Mengmeng wanted to run to Ellie's side, but the colorful little snakes blocked her way. Gu Mengmeng looked at her sons, hardened her heart, and stepped on the pile of snakes. Now, even if it was a landmine blocking her way, she would step on it without hesitation, much less snakes. Ellie's lips curved slightly, turned around and ran. Gu Mengmeng saw that Ellie had run away, and was even more anxious. She chased after her without a care for anything else. Sons, her sons. If she let Ellie run away this time, she did not know when she would be able to see her again. Ellie did not run far, and seemed to be intentionally waiting for Gu Mengmeng to chase after her. Every time Gu Mengmeng almost could not catch up, she would slow down and wait for her. She did not run far, but just in a more winding direction. After chasing after her for a few turns, Gu Mengmeng could not tell north from south. Ellie stopped in her tracks, and finally turned around to look at Gu Mengmeng. With a disdainful expression, she said with disdain, "You really dared to chase after me alone. You did not learn your lesson after being tricked. How did such a stupid female get chosen by the beast deity to become the messenger of the beast deity?" Gu Mengmeng placed both hands on her knees. She really wanted to say a few tough words to rebuke Ellie, but after coming to the beast world, she was almost in a state where she did not bring her legs out. When Elvis was around, Elvis would carry her. When Elvis was not around, Leah would carry her. When they reached the Snake King Valley, Elvis and Leah were not around, so Snake started to carry her. She seriously lacked training. If not for chasing after her sons, she would not have been able to persist till here. TSK, so useless. You only ran a few steps, and you are already panting like this. I really don't know what the mighty Snake King sees in you. Is it just because of this face? Ellie did not seem to be afraid of Gu Mengmeng. She casually threw away the vines that bound the 3 little wolves, and walked in front of Gu Mengmeng. She pinched Gu Mengmeng's chin and sneered, "You don't even have a single male beside you. I'd like to see how capable you are as the messenger of the beast deity." Gu Mengmeng wanted to push Ellie's hand away, but realized that compared to this scheming bitch, the difference in physical strength between her and herself was too great. It was easy to beat Nina, because she was an arrogant female. She had been pampered since birth, and had almost no chance to train, let alone fight. That was why Gu Mengmeng, who had learned some basic fighting skills and persevered in working out, could win so easily. However, Ailey was different. She had lived in the Snake King Valley since young, and was able to distinguish herself from the other females to become the sacred maiden. She did not just rely on her scheming ability to pretend to be a little white flower. Chapter 584. While Ellie was in pain, she quickly transformed her snake tail. The tip of the tail was covered in scales, wrapping around Gu Mengmeng tightly, as if she was strangling her prey. Her pupils became a straight line, her eyes filled with venom. Gu Mingming. You deserve to die. You deserve to die. Jealousy made Ellie's face contort. She completely disregarded her own fingers, and even used more strength, directly breaking her own fingers in Gu Mingming's hands. Then, she strangled Gu Mingming's neck with her bleeding hand, saying harshly, I coaxed him for over 100 years, but he did not even look at me once. Why did he surround you the moment you appeared? He should have killed you the moment you entered the Snake King Valley, and not let you replace me as the most respected female in the Snake King Valley. You deserve to die. Gu Mingming, you deserve to die. Gu Mingming wanted to struggle, but her entire body was wrapped tightly by Ellie. She could even clearly feel the pain from suffocation disappearing from her ankles upwards. Looks like she could not save it. Gu Mingming could only move one hand. She raised it in front of her, and poked at Ellie's eye. Ellie did not expect Gu Mingming to have such an evil move, and was caught off guard. Although she dodged instinctively, one of her eyes was still poked by Gu Mingming. When a person was in mortal danger, that kind of explosive power was shocking. One of Ellie's eyeballs was skewered on Gu Mingming's finger like octopus. Ellie let go of Gu Mingming in pain, covering her eye and rolling on the ground. Gu Mingming lost her center of gravity, and fell onto the ground, panting heavily like a fish that had been stranded. The eyeball in her hand made Gu Mingming feel disgusted, but she could not think so much at this moment. She shook her hand with all her might, and flung the eyeball off her hand. She tried to stand up, and realized that her leg was in a strange and peculiar position, as though it was in a spiral state. As expected, it was broken. Gu Mingming was glad that after the pain reached an extreme, she was now numb to pain. Even if she had to crawl to her son's side, or at least untie the vines on her son's body, so that they could escape. As long as her son was fine, she would not hesitate even if she had to sacrifice her life, let alone crippling her legs. Blood followed the path Gu Mingming took, drawing a bloody meandering line on the ground. Gu Mingming grabbed onto the grass on the ground, and moved her body forward with all her might. Her goal was very clear, her son. She wanted to save her son. One step, just one more step. Gu Mingming's fingers were about to reach Hutta, and she saw Hutta and his brothers opening their mouths, as if they were desperately trying to say something to her. Gu Mingming could only hear the sharp chirping in her ears. It was a pity that she could not hear her son's words. Don't be afraid. Mommy is here to save you. Don't be afraid, Mommy is here. As Gu Mingming spoke, she smiled at the 3 pairs of terrified and helpless eyes. She used all her strength to comfort her sons. She had finally touched Hutta. A smile blossomed on Gu Mingming's face, but before she could smile, her body was dragged backwards and she was dragged far away. Hutta! Gu Mingming stretched out her hand. Her only wish now was to untie the vines on the children's bodies. Chapter 585. Gu Mingming raised her arm to block, but her tiny arm was no stronger than a straw under Ellie's shocking biting strength. Was she going to die? Was she going to die? That's right. How could a human fight against a demon? Wasn't it all because of that monkey that Tripiaka could obtain the scriptures alive? But her monkey was not by her side. Life started spinning in front of Gu Mingming's eyes. It was just a moment, but she saw herself transmigrating, being picked up by Elvis, dating Leah, breaking up, then becoming partners with Elvis and giving birth to children. Children, in the end. It's your mother who is too useless. She couldn't even save you once. The only regret is that I never heard you call out once. Mummy. The clear voice beside her shocked Gu Mingming. With her eyes widened, Gu Mingming saw 3 half-orc young men trying their best to hold Ellie back. One used his fangs to bite onto Ellie's snake tail, dragging her backwards. One rode on her back, locking her neck, and trying his best to twist it backwards, while the last one was biting onto Ellie's throat, not retreating at all even though blood was sprayed all over his face. Just now who called out to her? Gu Mingming's eyes reddened, and she started crying. The pain from her leg being crushed did not even make her cry, but now because of the word mummy, her tears flowed. No more regrets, she had no more regrets. Her sons broke free from the vines and could escape. Before she died, she also heard the word mummy, that she yearned for even in her dreams. Gu Mingming struggled to sit up to help her sons fight against Ellie, but she saw her suddenly transform into her beast form, instantly becoming thicker and more solid. Her snake scales were hard. The 3 half-orcs who had just evolved could not bite through her scales. The 3 sons were flung away, their mouths full of blood. Ellie's eyes seemed to be red. She opened her mouth wide and charged towards Hutta and his brothers, looking as if she wanted to swallow them whole. No! Gu Mingming screamed her lungs out. She wanted to rush over to her son's side to protect them, but her leg bones were crushed into pieces. She could not even move a single step. Ellie's body suddenly froze, and she was in a trance for a moment. Gu Mingming thought that her screams had worked, so she hurriedly continued. Ellie, don't you hate me? Am I not the one who deserves to die? Come at me. I'm right here, come over. Ellie shook her body and exposed her head. He looked extremely terrifying as he looked at Gu Mingming with a malevolent expression, his gaze vicious and twisted. He wanted to save you. He actually used his identity as the Snake King to save you. I am his clansman. I am his saintess. I am the one who has guarded him for over 100 years. Can't you go against your innate nature? Why not? Hee. I'm going to resist for him to see. I want him to remember me, even if he hates me. With that, Ellie charged towards Gu Mingming without a care in the world. Gu Mingming could clearly see that with every inch Ellie moved forward, a few scales would fall off her body. By the time she reached Gu Mingming, she had already turned into a skinless, bloody worm. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Ellie bit onto Gu Mingming's thigh, then twisted her body in a twisted position, almost twisting Gu Mingming's leg off. Gu Mingming screamed, even though she could not feel any pain. Half a second before Gu Mingming's leg was torn off, a hand grabbed onto the back of Ellie's head fiercely by 3 inches. Ellie's lower jaw was forced to loosen, and Gu Mingming's leg was saved. Aside from the topic, was this considered a literary stupidity? But I didn't do it on purpose, who saved Gu Mingming. Chapter 586. The person who had come was Snake. Gu Mingming had thought that Elvis would be the first to rush over. After all, they had the mating mark to guide them. She was injured to this extent, so Elvis must have already known. But why wasn't he the first to come? Could she not see him for the last time? Gu Mingming's consciousness started to drift away. The heaviness of her eyelids and the coldness of her body became an irresistible whirlpool that pulled her in. Snake looked coldly at the bloodied worm in front of him. Without a word of nonsense, he squeezed his fingers and strangled her to death. Turning around, Snake carried Gu Mingming. The sagging curve of her legs made him frown. He had imagined more than once that Gu Mingming was a snake like him. How perfect the scene would be. But now, she looked so ugly with her limp lower body. It was no wonder that she hated snakes. Such an unbearable scene should be hated by others. Snake carried Gu Mingming back to the entrance of his cave. Elvis and Leah were lying there with wounds all over their bodies. Snake stopped in his tracks and looked at Elvis. He threw out 2 words calmly, so weak. Elvis clenched his teeth and did not say a word. He had no right to retort. A pair of bloodshot eyes landed on Gu Mingming, who was in Snake's arms. He felt as if something in his chest was being sliced off piece by piece, and then rubbed repeatedly with salt. A string of blood droplets dripped down from the side of Elvis's mouth. He had clenched his teeth so hard that it was bleeding. Snake glanced at Leah and said, "Turn my snake skin into clothes for her to wear." With that, Snake did not explain further and entered the cave. The colorful snakes quickly coiled together and sealed the entire cave entrance. And Gu Mingming, who was in the cave, was already in a state of deep unconsciousness. In the white world, Gu Mingming seemed to be floating without gravity. She was surrounded by fog, but it did not make her feel pressured. Instead, it made her feel very comfortable and relaxed. "Child, you are very impressive." A kind voice rang beside Gu Mingming's ears. Who are you?" Gu Mingming felt someone caressing her hair. The action was gentle and loving. She wanted to know who was talking to her, but her throat could not make any sound, and her eyelids were so heavy that she could not open them. "I am the beast deity." That person seemed to have heard the voice in Gu Mingming's heart, and directly gave the answer. "Beast deity? Gu Mingming was confused. Beast God. Yes, I am the Beast God. My child, the road ahead of you may be rough, but please keep a kind heart. Gu Mingming did not understand and asked in her heart, What do you mean? The beast deity chuckled. I'm sorry to have disrupted your original life. You must have been very helpless when you first arrived in the beast world. But now you have Elvis and Leah who love you, as well as Saint Nazir tribesmen who are loyal to you. In the future, you will have more and more followers by your side. Your words, actions and way of thinking will influence the beast world for the next 1,000 years. So don't lose your benevolent heart, understand? Gu Mingming's mind was filled with question marks, but she could not form a proper question. She just felt muddle-headed. The beast deity continued, Child, do not be sad, do not be sad. You have bestowed upon him the greatest release. Chapter 587. Ugh. Gu Mingming moaned, feeling a splitting headache. Xiaoming. A warm embrace immediately hugged Gu Mingming. Then, Gu Mingming heard the deafening heartbeat gradually calming down, as well as a sigh of relief after surviving a calamity. Gu Mingming opened her eyes, gradually adapting to the light in front of her. She raised her hand, feeling a little lost. Dream realm, so that was what it meant. Elvis, let go of me. Gu Mingming's voice was so calm that it was frightening. Elvis's body stiffened, but he still slowly released his hand. She should be angry. As her first partner, he did not fulfill his responsibility to protect her. Gu Mingming turned around and sat up, looking at her 3 sons who were sleeping in a ball in the corner. They looked exhausted. They must be exhausted. Gu Mingming took up the beast's skin that was covering her body and gently covered her 3 sons. Then, she walked out without saying a word. Elvis followed behind her quietly, the silence spreading in the air. Do you know, how does it feel to fall in love with yourself? Gu Mingming's gaze landed on the flat big rock at the entrance of the cave. There was a set of clothes made from snake skin drying there. Elvis did not say a word. He just quietly stared at the dark green snake behind Gu Mingming's neck, baring its fangs. Gu Mingming sat on the rock, staring at the set of clothes made from snake skin in a daze. The person who would reach out his hand and call her Tu Ming had now turned into a set of clothes. I thought I was just an interesting existence in his long life. But I never thought that I was the only color in his 1,000-year life. Gu Mingming lowered her head, smiling bitterly. He was really decisive. He actually used such a method to let me truly feel his care and persistence towards me. Gu Mingming did not turn back. Her eyes were still fixed on the set of snake skin. Her voice was calm, without any great sorrow, but it made one's heart ache. Do you know what the last sentence he said to me was? Elvis stood behind Gu Mingming. He did not even have the courage to reply. If not for him being too weak. He said that taking liberties with a married woman would really incur the wrath of the heavens. He would cut open his chest and take out his gallbladder. Gu Mingming did not cry. Instead, she smiled. Then, he told me thank you. He said thank you for letting me live. He died for me. And now he's thanking me for letting him live? What kind of twisted logic is this? But now, I can't even blame him. Gu Mingming clutched her chest tightly and said, What should I do? I actually felt his love for me so deeply, but we had only been together for a mere month. In this 1 month, I never thought that his feelings towards me were love. I am Gu Mingming. I feel that I should feel guilty and cry. But Snake had passed all of his memories to me. In his memories, this last month was far more blissful than that long 1,000 years. His senses told me that as long as I lived, he was happy. So I wanted to laugh again. Now, I can't even tell if I am Gu Mingming or Snake. Am I a human or a snake? Should I cry or laugh? Elvis went forward and gently hugged Gu Mingming in his arms, saying deeply, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I was too weak. Digression. Chapter 588. Gu Mingming wanted to lift her arms to hug Elvis back, but she felt her wrists were so heavy that she could not lift them. Sighing, Gu Mingming said, Elvis, let go of me. I want to wear the clothes Snake left for me. Elvis slowly let go. feeling a pain as if a layer of skin had been peeled off from his chest. Gu Mingming had always been protective of her privacy and only changed her clothes in the cave. Most of the time, even he had to avoid her. But this time, she actually stood in an empty space and took off the beast's skin she was originally wearing. Then, she carefully put on the clothes made from snake skin. Gu Mingming tilted her head and asked, "Does it look good?" Elvis nodded and said, "Xiaoming looks good no matter what you wear." Gu Mingming wanted to smile but realized that she could not. She sat back on the rock and squinted her eyes at the sun. "Where's Leah? I haven't seen him since I woke up." Elvis said, he has some debts to settle." Gu Mingming asked Cole. Elvis remained silent and did not say a word. Gu Mingming said, "Even if Cole broke his tail, he is still a 5th-level beast. Just Leah alone cannot defeat him." With that, Gu Mingming looked into the distance and said, "Go find Leah for me. Tell him that I am waiting for him, and ask him to come back." Elvis followed Gu Mingming's gaze and saw a rustle in the bushes. If one did not look carefully, they would think that it was just the rustling of grass in the wind. But a 5th-level beast's eyes were extremely good. He saw traces of colorful snakes in the bushes. Elvis was confused. Gu Mingming lowered her head and did not look at Elvis's eyes. She just gently touched the back of her neck and said, "Sorry, I promised that I would only leave your mark on my body." But, Elvis said, "Xiaomang's snake is the strongest among the kings. I did not have any objections to you mating with him." Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "Snake did not mate with me. This mark is a protection mark, not a mating mark." Elvis frowned and asked, "Protection mark?" Gu Mingming nodded her head almost imperceptibly and said, "I was killed by Ellie and my bones were all broken into pieces. Even if I was saved, I would be half paralyzed and probably won't be able to stand up again. Moreover, Ellie's final bite was a self-inflicted poison. Even Snake would not be able to remove it in a short period of time. So, he used the simplest and most violent way to solve this problem." Elvis was silent. He did not know the whole story. He only knew that after Snake carried Gu Mingming back that day, the colorful snake blocked the entrance of the cave. When the snakes dispersed, there was only an unconscious Gu Mingming and a huge snake skin left in the cave. Gu Mingming calmed herself down and continued. He cut open his own chest and took out his own snake gallbladder to detoxify and prolong my life. Then he poured 1,000 years of his cultivation into my body. Apart from the snake slough, everything else was concentrated on this mark. "Oh, even the snake skin is on me now," Gu Mingming said. "Do you know why he branded the mark on the back of my neck?" Elvis shook his head. With Snake's arrogance, he should have branded the mark on Gu Mingming's chest and occupied that position. Chapter 589. Gu Mingming replied, "Because he wants to guard my back to prevent anyone from sneaking up on me. He said, he wants to be the pair of eyes that are open behind my back." Gu Mingming glanced sideways at Elvis and asked, "Isn't it funny? He's already dead and he's still talking about guarding. It's just a mark. What can he guard?" Elvis was silent for a moment before he stretched out his right hand and transformed it into a wolf claw, before suddenly attacking the back of Gu Mingming's head. "Ah!" With a scream, Elvis fell to the ground. His wolf claw was covered in black venom, and his skin started to corrode instantly. Gu Mingming turned around and frowned. She flipped over and jumped down, grabbing Elvis's hand and placing it beside her mouth. Then, she gently licked the venom on it. Gu Mingming's little tongue easily cleaned up the venom, and at the same time, formed a transparent layer on Elvis's hand. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis quietly, and did not say a word. But Elvis smiled and said, "Look, although it's just a mark, he can still guard your back." Gu Mingming sighed and said, "Don't do such silly things to punish yourself. You didn't let me down, and you've already done enough." Elvis looked down and said sadly, "But I didn't manage to guard you." Gu Mingming said, "It's not your fault. In the end, it's the result of my willfulness." Elvis sat up straight and hugged Gu Mingming in his arms again and said, "I swear, I will become stronger and never let you get hurt again." Gu Mingming smiled bitterly and said, "Now, I have inherited everything from Snake, including his battle abilities and memories. In the entire beast world, I'm afraid no one can hurt me anymore. Elvis was stunned and said, You mean? Gu Mingming nodded and touched the mark on the back of her neck again and said, Snake has already merged with me as one. He gave everything to me, and he gave it very thoroughly. Elvis smiled bitterly and said, This should be considered a good thing. You don't have to worry about anyone plotting against you anymore. You also don't need me anymore. Gu Mingming hugged Elvis back gently and pursed her lips, saying, I've aged 1,000 years in one night, and I'm still not used to many things. But there's one thing I know. You're my family and I'll need you no matter what. Elvis did not say a word, and just hugged Gu Mingming back gently. Neither of them said anything. A violent sound came from afar, and it was rapidly approaching. Gu Mingming stood up and turned to face him. A huge python appeared in front of Gu Mingming. Its head that was as big as a train's engine stuck at the tip of Gu Mingming's nose. If it was in the past, she would have screamed, but now, she just looked up calmly and said, Didn't I tell you before I hate snakes? I hate shit. I hate snakes that look like shit. With that, Gu Mingming slapped the snake's head, and the head, which was as big as a train, was slammed onto the ground with a loud bang, embedding about half a meter into the ground. Wabi-Ai transformed back into his human form and stood up. He rubbed his chin and pointed at Gu Mingming's nose. Snake, I want to challenge you. Gu Mingming narrowed her eyes and sneered. You can't beat me. Wabi-Ai's eyes were red. He seemed to be suppressing his emotions as he roared. I don't care. I just want to challenge you. I want to defeat you and replace you as the master of the Snake King Valley. Gu Mingming nodded and said, All right, you're the master of the Snake King Valley now. Aside from the topic, I've unlocked Gu Mingming's golden finger that all of you wanted. She now had all of Snake's powers, the powers of the only beast king in the beast world. She didn't need to rely on mating to protect herself. She could stare to death with just a stare. But, I want to know, are you happy after unlocking this heaven-defying golden finger that all of you have been dreaming of? Chapter 590. Wabi-Ai roared. I don't need your charity. I want to snatch it myself. With that, Wabi-Ai attacked Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming just turned her body slightly and stepped on Wabi-Ai's back, causing him to lie flat on the ground. She looked down at Wabi-Ai from above and said coldly, You are so annoying. Wabi-Ai's eyes turned red, but not because of anger. He rolled and transformed into a giant python to attack Gu Mingming again. Elvis wanted to join the battle, but was stopped by Gu Mingming with a hand gesture. Gu Mingming tilted her head and looked at Elvis, saying, This is what Snake owes him. I should repay him. Don't interfere. With that, Wabi-Ai's poisonous fangs were right in front of Gu Mingming. That gaping mouth had already enveloped Gu Mingming. One bite and Gu Mingming would be swallowed into his stomach. Then the next second, the giant python landed on the ground with a thud, accompanied by a cloud of dust. The entire world was shaking, and everything became a blur. Wabi-Ai was like a lifeless noodle being squashed flat on the ground. Elvis was not spared either, as he was pressed flat on the ground, unable to move. Gu Mingming took a deep breath and retracted her beast pressure. She walked in front of Wabi-Ai and kicked him, saying, So weak. Wabi-Ai slowly transformed back into human form, but did not stand up. He just sat cross-legged on the ground and lowered his head, murmuring, Thank you. Gu Mingming kept her ice-cold expression, and also sat cross-legged beside Wabi-Ai, saying, I have already found my son. Tomorrow, I will leave. Although Snake has never cared about this Snake King Valley. But this place was formed because of him after all. I don't wish for the Snake King Valley to collapse just like that. You can defend this place, right? Wabi-Ai glanced sideways and met Gu Mingming's eyes. He immediately lowered his head and stared at his own shadow. This was the only way he could continue imagining that the person he was fighting with just now, and the person sitting beside him talking to him was Snake. Since I did not win you, this Snake King Valley is still yours. If you want to defend it, you can defend it yourself. If you don't. Gu Mingming patted Wabi-Ai's shoulder. Snake actually cares a lot about you. Wabi-Ai stiffened his neck and turned to the other side, not looking at Gu Mingming. Mind my ass. He only thinks about his own release, and doesn't think about what I should do? I've lived for 800 years, and I fought with him for 800 years. He was my only goal and role model. Now that he's gone, where should I go with my life? Gu Mingming sighed softly. She also knew that Wabi did not really want the Snake King Valley. He was just like Snake, too lonely. The duel became a strange way for them to care and communicate with each other. Even though Snake was the one who one-sidedly crushed Wabi every time, Snake had never killed him. Moreover, in the long 1,000 years without Gu Mingming, if there was anything that Snake could look forward to, it would probably be Wabi's frequent challenges. Gu Mingming remained silent for a moment before saying, "Sorry." Wabi harumphed but did not reply. Gu Mingming felt that some things had to be clarified, so she said, "I know you and Ellie, but Snake killed Ellie because of me. I'm very happy that you appeared today. At least the people he cares about did not all die because of me." Chapter 591. Perhaps she was affected by Snake's memories, but Gu Mingming found it hard to stir up too many emotions. As for Ellie, Gu Mingming did not wish to talk much about it. She just continued asking Wabi, "Are you really not willing to stay in the Snake King Valley?" Wabi's expression dimmed. "Staying here to remind myself that I will never be able to surpass him?" Gu Mingming looked at Wabi quietly and sighed. "Then what plans do you have for the future?" Wabi replied, "Aren't you going back to Saint Nazir?" Gu Mingming nodded. Wabi said, "I will go back with you." Gu Mingming raised her brows and looked at Wabi. "You know I hate." Wabi jumped to his feet and said, "Didn't you inherit everything from Snake?" "Everything from him includes my challenge. Let me tell you, unless I defeat Snake, you will have to answer whenever I challenge you." Gu Mingming stared at Wabi. She knew that without Snake, he would be the most upset person. So Gu Mingming snorted in disdain. "You overestimate yourself." Wabi stared at Gu Mingming in a daze. He did not speak for a long time. He just quietly sat beside Gu Mingming, frowning slightly. "I know you hate snakes that look like shit. I will try my best not to reveal my true form in front of you. As long as you occasionally speak to me in Snake's tone like you did just now, and fight me when I really cannot bear it." Gu Mingming chuckled. She stood up and dusted her hands. Then she slapped Wabi's back, sending him flying. She raised her head. "So annoying." Turning around, Gu Mingming did not look at Wabi's expression. She only heard him shouting behind her. "Just you wait. One day, I will defeat you and throw you out of the Snake King Valley." Gu Mingming knew that Wabi was crying. The three little wolves had long been woken up by the commotion outside. They wanted to come out to see Gu Mingming, but were stopped by Elvis. When Gu Mingming returned to the cave, she found it hard to express her feelings. Her son, who was not even a year old, was now standing beside Elvis and looking at her. He still had the body of a child, and looked to be about 4 to 5 years old. Snake's inherited memories told her that the children's physical abilities were stimulated by the sight of her in mortal danger, forcing them to upgrade. This method of leveling up by spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm was harmful to the body itself. Gu Mingming caressed her son's faces and tried to confirm, "You are Hutta?" The one who looked the most refined among the three nodded and stepped forward, calling out, "Mother Beast." Gu Mingming forced a smile and said, "I saw it. You were the first to transform and rush over with your 2 younger brothers. But next time, I hope you can run away with your brother. Because if not for Snake's timely arrival, the 4 of us would have died there." In such a situation where there's a great disparity in strength between us and the enemy, it's wiser to protect as many as you can. Understand? Hutta shook his head and said, "We are males, we have to protect the females in our family. If I can't even save my own mother, I might as well just die." Chapter 592. Kanwa's eyes were the most similar to Elvis's, the same deep blue. Gu Mingming touched her son's little face and said, "Kanwu is such a brave child. But do you know? The blood of a snake is poisonous. You would have been poisoned yourself after biting Ellie's throat like that. If not for If Snake had not given his blood to the three little ones while saving Gu Mingming, Gu Mingming would have to face the pain of losing her children the moment she woke up. Jiaoyu walked forward and hugged Gu Mingming's thigh. He looked up at his mother and said, "Mother Beast, don't worry. I will think of ways to protect all of you in the future. I won't let my brothers get hurt again, and I won't let Mother Beast worry again. I want to be the smartest Jiaoyu of Mother Beast, and live up to the name Mother Beast gave me." Gu Mingming kissed Jiaoyu's little face and gently stroked his furry ears. "Jiaoyu is so sensible." Elvis carried Gu Mingming up and stared coldly at the three little wolf cubs. He had to say that these little ones really knew how to make Gu Mingming like them. He could not comfort Gu Mingming no matter how hard he tried. But she became much better with just a few words from these three. The wolf cubs who could talk were much more threatening than before. But, for the first time, he was glad that these three little wolf cubs were around. If they had not suddenly transformed and held Ellie back for a while, Snake might not have been able to save Gu Mingming in time. "Your Mother Beast is tired and needs to rest. You guys go outside." "Why?" Kamwa took a step forward and glared at Elvis angrily. "We want to stay by Mother's side to protect her." Elvis gritted his teeth. "I will protect my own female." Kamwa did not back down. "Is that so? Then where were you when she was in danger?" Elvis's chest tightened. He clenched his fists tightly and could not say a word. Gu Mingming patted Kamwa's little head. "Kamwa, you can't talk to Father like that." Although Kamwa was indignant, he did not want to make Mother angry. So he lowered his head. "All right, Mother, I understand." Gu Mingming squatted down and looked at her three sons at eye level. She said, "Your father is very brave. He and Leah risked their lives to clear Cole's trap, so that Snake could successfully rush to the scene to save us. Although they did not appear, it did not mean that he did not do anything. So you can't think of Father like that, understand?" Kamwu raised his head and looked at Gu Mingming, then at Elvis. "I'll give my mother face and not argue with you." Elvis frowned. Why was this brat getting more and more annoying the more he looked at him? Hada pulled Kamwu back. "Kamwu," said Kamwu, "let's wait outside for Daddy Leah to return." Gu raised her. Gu asked. Gu. Gu said. "Father Gu." And Gu. Gu Mingming found it funny. They did not call Elvis's daddy, but called Leah daddy? Gu Mingming found it funny. They did not call Elvis father but called Leah father? Hada said. "Although he did not mate with Mother, he is recognized by you and Father Beast. So we call him Father Leah." Gu Mingming nodded. Father Leah sounded different when it came from her and the children's mouths. Chapter 593. Gu Mingming turned around and looked at Elvis. She did not say anything and just pulled his hand. Elvis pulled Gu Mingming into his arms and kissed her hair. "You have just recovered from your injuries. You still need to rest." Gu Mingming shook her head. "My recovery ability is very good now. I don't feel anything strange anymore. Also, I don't want to sleep. Whenever I close my eyes now, Snake's memories will appear. Do you know, I can even see the previous messenger of the beast deity." Elvis lowered his head and gently rubbed Gu Mingming's temples. "Not only did you inherit Snake's memories, you also inherited all the memories he inherited from his family?" Gu Mingming nodded helplessly and said, "Yeah, but many of the images are very blurry. Maybe it was too long ago, so I can't remember them clearly. But Snake's memories and his father's memories are very clear in my mind. Then, I feel like I was a male who loved the previous messenger of the beast deity, and a male who fell in love with himself after being lonely for 1,000 years. Isn't it ridiculous? I'm even starting to suspect who exactly am I." Elvis's eyes were filled with heartache. He hugged and kissed Gu Mingming. "You are my Xiaoming, my queen." Gu Mingming's fingers gently touched Elvis's chest. The scar there had not completely faded. The healing ability of a 5th-level beast and a beast king was still very different. "Does it still hurt?" Gu Mingming asked. Elvis held Gu Mingming's hand, that was rubbing the scar on his chest, and shifted it to the left. Yes. Gu Mingming felt the heartbeat vibrating from her fingertips. She looked up and met Elvis's deep blue eyes. Pursing her lips, she said, "I don't want to lie to you and say that I'm fine. After experiencing that nightmare, I woke up 1,000 years older. I am very confused and uneasy. I don't know how to face the fact that Snake sacrificed his life for me, but I promise I will slowly get better. Be it for you, for our sons, for Leah and the tribe, or for Snake. Elvis held Gu Mingming's hand and nodded. I know you will get better. You will definitely get better. Gu Mingming did not reply Elvis. She just looked up at the entrance of the cave. Now her hearing was extremely good. Leah is back, Gu Mingming said. Elvis asked, You have something to tell him? Gu Mingming nodded and glanced sideways at Elvis, saying, I know I promised to only have you as my partner in this lifetime, but I now understand how persistent a male can be when he is in love. Snake had only known me for less than a month, but Leah had already been by my side for half a year. If you blame me, Elvis chuckled and did not let her continue. He just kissed her hair lightly and said, I will never blame you. No matter what you do, I will support you. Whatever you want, I will find it for you. Gu Mingming nodded, deliberating whether she should say sorry or thank you. After hesitating for a long while, Gu Mingming said, Hubby, I love you. Elvis curled his lips and said, I know. Besides, I love you too. With that, Elvis let go of Gu Mingming and left the cave after taking a deep look at her. Chapter 594. Leah was taken aback. Elvis had already brought the 3 children and walked far away. But Leah could not lift his feet to step into the cave. Congratulate me? Gu Mingming almost died, and he did not manage to catch coal. Elvis brought his child away and congratulated him before he left. Gu Mingming was waiting for him in the cave. Congratulations. Congratulations for what? It was self-evident. But he did not dare to take that step forward. Afraid? How could he not be afraid? What if he was wrong again? What if it was an empty joy again? What if Gu Mingming said that she did not want him again? The wisest man in the beast world. How ironic was this title now? What could he plan? He could not even protect the female he loved. Leah stood at the entrance of the cave like a statue. He stared at the cave, as if there was a huge force of attraction that was drawing his gaze. But his legs were rooted to the ground, and he could not move. Leah. Gu Mingming came out to welcome him. She stood 3 steps away from Leah. Unknowingly, Leah had an urge to escape. Let's mate. Gu Mingming took a step forward and reached out a hand to Leah. I don't want the 10 years of life you have left. I want you to accompany me for a long time. Leah did not say anything. He just took a step forward and grabbed Gu Mingming's wrist. He pulled her into his arms and hugged her tightly. He wanted to rub her into his bones and blood. Gu Mingming could clearly hear that Lee's breathing was trembling. Every cell in his body was boiling. But his throat was tightly locked, and he could not say a word. Gu Mingming hugged Leah back and gently placed her face on Lee's chest. She said, I did not understand in the past how decisive a male can be when he falls in love with a female. If I had known earlier, I would not have believed the nonsense about you and Nina. In the end, I did not trust you enough. But because of this reason, I tortured you for so long. I'm sorry I was wrong. Leah shook his head and kissed Gu Mingming's lips. She was not wrong. How could she be wrong? She was his Mingming. It was his fault. It was his fault for thinking that everything was under control. It was his fault for putting her on the scale. It was his fault for not protecting her properly and letting go of her hand, for so many inexplicable things. Torture? What kind of torture was that? She had never been able to harden her heart to him, so that he would not collapse in despair. All the pain was his own fault. But she had been kind enough to hold his hand again and again in the abyss of despair. What did she do wrong? Why should he apologize? Leah carried Gu Mingming horizontally and strode into the cave. Leah placed Gu Mingming down gently on a beast's skin beside the fire. He flipped over and ran his fingers across Gu Mingming's little face, tidying the stray hair on her face. Mingming, is it really you? Gu Mingming held Lee's hand and placed it on her cheek. Her eyes reflected the light from the fire, bringing with it some warmth. In this world, who else dares to snatch my man? Leah smiled to hide the glint in his eyes. It's useless, even if you snatch, you can't. Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Lee's neck. She pursed her lips and continued. I inherited all of Snake's abilities, and am now a little poisonous person. If I mate with you, it might cost you your life. So I can only use another method to mate. Do you mind? Leah kissed Gu Mingming's lips deeply. He said in a hoarse voice, I don't mind being a beast pet for a lifetime. What else would I mind? Digression. There are 2 versions here. Babies who want to see Lee's digression can go to the VIP group to find the shared file. Babies who only accept 1v1 can read the main text. Verification group. 4927792773. After entering the group, please contact the corresponding administrator to verify your fan value and enter the VIP group to see the other version. Chapter 595. Gu Mingming turned around and gently pushed Leah up. The 2 of them sat side by side. Gu Mingming's fingers were slightly cold. She pointed at Lee's brows and stared into his eyes. She confirmed once again, mating is the combination of 2 people's energies. I will extract a drop of your blood from your brows and send it to my heart. We can still complete the mating contract. If you want to regret, it's still not too late. Leah smiled gently and dotingly. He held onto Gu Mingming's wrist with one hand and hooked her chin with the other. Get me, possess me, then allow me to give you all my loyalty. Gu Mingming, do you know how long I have been waiting for this day? Gu Mingming returned a smile. She gathered the breath of the Beast King on her fingertips and pointed at Lee's brows. A drop of blood hovered in front of Gu Mingming's fingertips. Gu Mingming slowly sent the drop of blood into her heart and into her body. Gu Mingming bit the tip of her tongue and took the initiative to cover Lee's lips. A bloody kiss announced the completion of the mating process. Lee's head was dizzy, and his gaze started to drift off. Gu Mingming stood up and tidied up her messy clothes. She then gently caressed Lee's sleeping face. She chuckled. I still dominated you in the end, but I don't want to be conflicted anymore. Who knows which will come first, tomorrow or an accident? I don't want to regret it anymore. Gu Mingming instructed the little snake to call Elvis and the children back. Elvis did not go far. He was guarding the entrance of the cave for Gu Mingming. Seeing the little snake, he brought the 3 little ones back. But the moment they entered the cave, Elvis was stunned. What situation was this? Gu Mingming was sitting there perfectly fine. But Leah was unconscious? Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly. That he? Elvis frowned inside. I told him not to listen so much. Look, he really can't listen anymore. Cough. Gu Mingming choked. She smiled awkwardly and did not reply. Bring Leah along. Let's set off. Qixuan's poison cannot be delayed any longer. Elvis picked Leah up with one hand and hugged Gu Mingming with the other. Then let's return to solder first. Gu Mingming nodded and did not say anything else. Once Elvis exited the cave, a large group of snakes followed behind him. At first, it was the colorful snakes, but the further they walked out of the valley, the more snakes followed, and the thicker they were. By the time they reached the entrance of the valley, even Wabi-Ai had caught up. Gu Mingming looked back and frowned. She was no longer afraid of snakes, but if she brought all of them out, the world would be in chaos. Gu Mingming patted Elvis, signaling him to put her down. He took 2 steps back and looked at the snake beasts behind him. Seeing that Gu Mingming had stopped, the snake beasts that could transform into human form did the same, while those that could not yet stood upright and looked at Gu Mingming attentively. Chapter 596. Saintus. One of the snake beasts took a step forward and said, What should we do after you leave? Gu Mingming scanned the crowd of snake beasts and realized that other than Wabi-Ai, there were almost no other orcs above the 3rd level. Was it because Snake killed Ellie and caused the mating contract to backfire? There was a gap in the number of powerful warriors in the Snake King Valley. No wonder Ellie dared to lay his hands on her. She gambled that Snake would not sacrifice the lives of more than half of the powerful warriors in the Snake King Valley for a dead Gu Mingming. Unfortunately, she lost. In Snake's eyes, nothing was more important than Gu Mingming. Thinking of Snake, Gu Mingming frowned and her heart ached faintly. After I escort the saintess to Saint Nazir, I will come back to guard the Snake King Valley for him. Wabi took a step forward and transformed into a half-orc. His snake body stood erect, and was at least 3 stories tall. He looked down at the crowd of snake beasts and asked, "Any other questions?" Gu Mingming glanced sideways and smiled faintly. She knew that the him Wabi was referring to was not herself but Snake. The snake beasts all lowered their bodies to show their obedience. Wabi then transformed into a human again, and stood behind Gu Mingming. "Let's go." Gu Mingming nodded and led Elvis, Leah, Wabi and the 3 buns out of the Snake King Valley. The moment they came out, they saw Ian standing guard at the entrance. He was already sick, but now he looked even more haggard. Gu Mingming walked forward and bit her finger. Then, she squeezed out a drop of blood and placed it on Ian's lips. "It has been hard on you during this period." Ian was taken aback. He wanted to wipe off the blood on his lips, but realized that the blood had already seeped into his mouth. Moreover, it took effect quickly, and all the blood in his body seemed to have been ignited. That boiling feeling was painful, but also a form of release. The feeling of being unable to use any strength for a month was gradually disappearing. She neutralized the poison in him? Gu Mingming knew that Ian had many doubts, but she did not want to explain. She just said, "Let's go to Solder first. I will tell you the rest slowly." Ian didn't say a word, and just followed behind Gu Mingming silently. He was wary and hostile towards Wabi. Wabi could not be bothered with him. A mere 3rd-level bird. If Snake had not instructed him to keep it alive, it would have long become a dish in his stomach. He didn't want to compete with a meat dish. Gu Mingming's current physique was much better than before, so the group traveled much faster than before. That night, Leah woke up. Rubbing his head, the first thing he did when he opened his eyes was to look for Gu Mingming. Turning his head, he realized that she was sitting beside the fire in a daze. Lee's gaze subconsciously softened. He propped himself up and sat beside Gu Mingming, wrapping his large tail around Gu Mingming's waist and calling out softly, "Mingming." Gu Mingming glanced sideways at Leah. After regaining her senses, she smiled and said, "You're awake." Lee's hand gently caressed Gu Mingming's little face. His gaze landed on her left ear, and he smiled in an extremely gentle manner. There was a snow-white fox lying on Gu Mingming's ear. Its head was on the earlobe, and its face was facing upwards. It looked as if it was running towards Gu Mingming's ear along the earlobe. Its large furry tail occupied the outer part of Gu Mingming's ear. It looked like an exquisite earring, and was very lifelike. So that wasn't a dream. That's great. Aside from the topic, you want to ask why Lee's mating mark was not on her heart, right? This is my final preference for my son. If Lee's mark was on her heart, what would Elvis do? Also, don't worry, Gu Mingming had enough self-protection abilities now. She didn't need to rely on mating to protect herself. So the males around her were only Elvis and Leah. There wouldn't be another one. As for Snake, who had left a mark on her neck, he was the 0 that I had previously revealed in the group. 5 partners. Chapter 597. 3 days later, Gu Mingming and the rest returned to Solder. Sandy and Colin carried Qixuan to the stone house Gu Mingming was staying in, and handed him over to her. Gu Mingming used her own blood to feed Qixuan, but he still did not wake up. Gu Mingming frowned, not understanding. According to Snake's memories, her blood should have the effect of detoxifying poison. The poison that Ellie used on the little wolves should be the same. Since it could save Hutta and his brothers, there was no reason why it could not save Qixuan. Dylan knew that Gu Mingming had returned, and rushed over immediately. After discussing with Leah, he came to see Gu Mingming. He was a little hesitant but still said, "Apart from Ellie's snake poison, there might be something else on little Master Qixuan's body." Gu Mingming asked, "What do you mean?" Dylan said, "Cole is never a person who puts all his eggs in one basket. He is used to having double insurance for everything. If he dared to send little Master Qixuan back to you, it means that he is confident that he will not wake up. And a suspicious person like him would not place all his hopes on others." Gu Mingming frowned, hugging Qixuan as she fell into deep thought. Gu Mingming was now very clear on how Cole had presented the treasure to Snake. Snake was not a fool. He knew that Cole was only using him as an insurance mechanism, but he still sent Ellie to assist Cole. Firstly, he was only interested in the messenger of the beast deity at that time, to find out some information about the other world from her, and did not care much about it. Secondly, in Snake's eyes, Cole's methods were really too lackluster. No matter what tricks Cole had up his sleeves, he would always have a way to make him send Gu Mingming to the Snake King Valley obediently. But judging from Cole's actions, he was indeed not someone who only had one set of plans for doing things. So, to save Qixuan, I have to find Cole. Gu Mingming thought about everything in the past, her brows furrowed. Huda and his brothers surrounded the unconscious Qixuan, sniffing him and licking him. Huda nudged Qixuan, saying, Xian, don't sleep, hurry up and play with us? Look, Lu Wu and I have all evolved into half-beasts. You should also quickly get up. Once you wake up, you can evolve. Qixuan did not move, and continued to lie there quietly. Jiaoyu sighed. He was clearly a young child, but he had an air of maturity about him. He lightly patted Huda's shoulder and said, Don't worry, I believe that mother will definitely have a way. Kanwa ran down from the bed to Gu Mingming's side. He looked up at her and said, Mummy, how can we wake Qixuan up? You are the great messenger of the beast deity. You must know, right? Gu Mingming squatted down and gently caressed her son's little face. Looking at his clear and expectant eyes, Gu Mingming still shook her head. Mummy also doesn't know how to wake Qixuan up, but Mummy will definitely do my best. Believe in Mummy, alright? Kanwa nodded heavily and said, I believe in Mother. Gu Mingming smiled. When her gaze met Qixuan's, she frowned again. Chapter 598. Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment before her eyes suddenly lit up. She hugged Kanwu and kissed him. You are indeed my son. So smart. Kanwu was bewildered by the kiss and blushed for a while. She pretended to be calm and said, Of course. With that, Kanwu ran back to Huda and the rest and surrounded Qixuan, trying to wake him up. Gu Mingming asked Leah to send Dylan off, before walking into another room and lying on the bed. Elvis accompanied her over. Seeing that she was lying down, he asked, Do you want to sleep for a while? I'll wake you up when Leia is done with dinner. Gu Mingming shook her head. When I was unconscious, I dreamed of the beast deity. Elvis frowned and said, Is there a deviation in your behavior? Which part? Elvis's nervousness stemmed from the analysis Leah had given him. The beast deity had pointed out and corrected the messengers' deviations in their actions in the dream realm. If the messengers did not make any changes or make amends to reverse their mistakes, they might very well anger the beast deity and be punished. He was extremely afraid of that punishment, because no matter what it was, he could not let Gu Mingming get hurt. So, if there was any deviation in Gu Mingming's actions, even if she asked him to dig Snake up and die in his place, he would definitely do it. Gu Mingming patted Elvis's arm lightly, signaling him not to be nervous. Then she said calmly, He is not here to warn me, but to greet me. He also told me to maintain a kind heart. Elvis looked at Gu Mingming doubtfully and asked, Are you sure? Did you miss anything? Gu Mingming shook her head and said, I won't. You also know that after I inherited Snake's ability, my memory became especially good. Elvis thought about it and felt slightly more at ease. He held Gu Mingming's little hand and asked, So you want to look for the beast deity in your dreams again, and ask for advice on how to save Qixuan? Gu Mingming nodded. Elvis was a little dejected. He sighed and said, I used to think that I could do anything, but why do I always feel helpless now? Dream. How good would it be if I could follow you into the dream? Gu Mingming chuckled. Hubby, you have already done very well. Gu Mingming knew that Elvis's confidence had been destroyed by Snake until there was nothing left. Especially after Ellie's suicide attack, Elvis had been shrouded in a sense of helplessness. Unfortunately, at this moment, there was a fox on her ear. Gu Mingming felt apologetic and guilty towards Elvis, but she did not know how to comfort him. Forget it, I'll deal with my son first. Gu Mingming allowed Elvis to hold her hand. She then slowly closed her eyes and said, "Hubby, I feel very relieved that you can stay by my side and accompany me." Elvis slowly bent down and planted a kiss on Gu Mingming's forehead. "I will always be by your side." Gu Mingming nodded. The sunlight shone through the window gently onto Gu Mingming's face. It was warm and comfortable. Elvis's warmth could be felt from her palm, full of support. Gu Mingming gradually fell asleep in a very peaceful environment. Her face supported her to find that white fog no matter what. Gu Mingming's brows were tightly furrowed as she fell asleep. Chapter 599. Gradually, Gu Mingming's vision was filled with a blurry and hazy whiteness. Gu Mingming tried shouting, "Beast deity? Beast deity?" There was no reply, not even an echo. It was dead silent and lifeless. Gu Mingming groped her way deeper into the fog, but other than the white fog, she could not see anything else. "Beast deity? Beast deity?" Gu Mingming continued shouting, but still received no reply. Gu Mingming frowned. Did she walk into the wrong door, or was the beast deity not at home? Just as she was feeling suspicious, a cold hug enveloped Gu Mingming from behind. Gu Mingming was taken aback and instinctively released her beast pressure, but the person behind her was not overwhelmed by it. Instead, he chuckled and said, Not bad. You know how to use the weapon I left for you to protect yourself." Gu Mingming was taken aback, and her whole body froze, unable to move. "Tu Meng." With that, a hand reached out from behind Gu Mingming, palm facing up, in front of Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming raised her trembling hand and clenched it into a fist, slowly placing her little hand on that palm. Was it magical? Just by hearing the voice and looking at that hand, Gu Mingming could actually recognize who was hugging her. "Snake, is that you?" Gu Mingming did not turn back, only asking softly. The large hand closed gently, firmly holding Gu Mingming's little hand in his palm. Then with a light pull, Gu Mingming spun half around, standing face to face with the person behind her. Looking up, Gu Mingming saw that familiar devil-like face. His dark green eyes were shining with a cold light, but Gu Mingming did not feel afraid anymore. That natural aura and arrogant stance only made Gu Mingming feel at ease. She took the initiative to jump into Snake's arms, and the tears that Gu Mingming had been holding in since she woke up finally fell. Snake was taken aback. He held Gu Mingming's little chin and asked, "You were already ugly, but you look even uglier when you cry." "I will cry, I will be ugly. If you don't like it, don't look." Gu Mingming was a little willful, deliberately crying even louder and uglier. Snake's gaze was gentle as he caressed Gu Mingming's little face and said, "I like you no matter how ugly you are. You know, you're the only color in my eyes." Hearing Snake's words, Gu Mingming stopped crying. She sniffled and lowered her head to avoid Snake's gaze. She said softly, "Liking me is probably the most unfortunate thing in your life. This is the first time in 1,000 years that I've met with misfortune. In the end, I lost my life. You shouldn't have saved me in the first place. Just let me fall from the sky and die." Snake pinched Gu Mingming's little face and said, "Meeting you is not something unlucky. The beast deity pitted me for being shackled for 1,000 years and sent you to save me. It's just that I can't bear to force 1,000 years of loneliness on you." Gu Mingming looked up and said, "Then why don't you discuss with the beast deity and come back? I'll return everything to you. Will you come back?" Snake chuckled and said, "Yes, I can't go back. But the beast deity promised me that as compensation, he would let me find you in another world." Gu Mingming sniffled and asked, "What do you mean?" Snake cupped Gu Mingming's little face and bent down to accommodate her height. He looked straight into her eyes and answered, "I will go to your world and find you before you transmigrate. Then, I'll enjoy you all to myself." Digression. This can be considered a preview. At the end of this article, I will release a digression saying that Snake was reborn into the era that Gu Mingming was in. Then as a modern person, he wooed the pre-transmigrated Gu Mingming and made her stay in the modern world. From a timeline perspective, this matter is not valid, because if Snake had stopped Gu Mingming from transmigrating, then he would not have gotten to know Gu Mingming and would not have been reborn. But Yeah, let's just treat it as the concept of a parallel universe. Snake is a character that makes my heart ache. I will tell everyone without hesitation that in the entire article, Snake is the one who makes my heart ache the most. Compared to Snake, what does torturing Leah previously count as? Chapter 600. Gu Mingming's eyes were watery, as if she didn't quite understand what Snake meant. Snake smiled as he pinched Gu Mingming's little face. So, I am freed from this shackle. To me, death means that my happiness has just begun. Tu Meng, I left everything to you, not to let you live on for me, but to let you live on properly. Don't use your messy memories to mess up your life. Just live on your own terms. Laugh when you're happy. Cry when you're sad. Fight back if someone bullies you. Kill if someone plots against you. This is the reason why I left everything to you. My Tu Meng is still most suited to be carefree. Gu Mingming's nose felt sour as she punched Snake's chest. Are you praising me? Why does it sound so awkward? Snake held onto Gu Mingming's little fist, placing it in his hand carefully, as if he was admiring a precious piece of art. As if he wanted to remember every line on Gu Mingming's palm, he looked at it carefully and seriously, then said, I don't have much time, so you have to remember my words well. Gu Mingming nodded, pursed her lips and didn't say a word, quietly listening to Snake's confession. After I injected my abilities into your body, I shared your memories. I know from beginning to end, you treat me as a friend, not as a male. Although it's a pity, it's too late to change anything. In that world, after I found you, I will never let such a thing happen again. Gu Mingming looked up at Snake with her sparkling eyes. Snake, I like you. Snake was stunned for a moment, then he smiled. My Tu Meng is so soft-hearted and gentle. I know it's fake, but I still thank you for saying that. Gu Mingming shook her head, wanting to explain. But Snake didn't give her the chance. His body had already started to become transparent. Snake seized the time to explain. You are Gu Mingming, not Snake. Be it the Snake King Valley or Wabi, it's not your responsibility. You have no need or obligation to act as my substitute in front of them. Live your own life, use my powers, and protect yourself well. Tu Meng. I like you, Tu Meng. Thank you, Tu Meng. Goodbye, Tu Meng. Snake completely disappeared before Gu Mingming's eyes. No matter how hard Gu Mingming tried to grab at him, she could not find a single trace of him. Her chest tightened as she squatted on the ground, wailing loudly. Don't you like Snake? Did she only see him as a friend? That's right, before Snake shared a memory with her, she really only saw Snake as a friend. But later on, when she obtained Snake's memories, she clearly knew how much Snake liked her, and how much he treasured her. All the good things he did for her. Every scene of the two of them together was like a movie that was destined to separate, replaying in her mind. The sweeter it was then, the sadder the ending was. Gu Mingming knelt on the ground and shouted, Snake, I don't dislike you. I just didn't have time to tell you. I like you. I like you. I like you. Chapter 601. I'm here. Where is he going to find me? Gu Mingming roared. That person was still very gentle, and said with a loving voice. He will go to your original world to find you before you transmigrated. He will be happy, so don't cry, alright? Gu Mingming wiped her tears, and finally saw the person in front of her clearly. He did not have a white beard or hair, and looked to be in his 30s. But his eyes were as tolerant and calm as the ocean. It was a kind of wisdom, and an indescribable love. You are the beast deity? Gu Mingming asked. The man nodded and said, Yes, it's my first time meeting you, my daughter. Gu Mingming blushed and burped. She sniffled and asked, You know I was spouting nonsense in the beast world? The man chuckled and said, How is it nonsense? If you are willing to be my daughter, then you are my daughter. I don't mind. Gu Mingming sniffled and tilted her head. I mind. The man did not insist and said, I know you came to find me because of Qishuan's matter, but I can't help you. Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment, before she immediately knelt down and hugged the man's arm. Father, you are my biological father. You have to save your grandson. The man did not know whether to laugh or cry at Gu Mingming's reaction. He gently rubbed her little head and said, "It's not that I don't want to save him, but the people of the beast world have their ways. If I forcefully interfere, it will only make things worse. All I can do is to guide him." Gu Mingming looked up and said, "Can you speak like a human? I don't understand." The beast deity was silent for a moment before he sat cross-legged beside Gu Mingming and said, "You inherited Snake's memories, so you should know about the previous messenger of the beast deity?" Gu Mingming nodded and said, "Yeah, I know some parts. It probably started after she found Snake's father. I don't know what happened before that." The beast deity still looked like he wanted to smile but did not. He strangely exuded the light of a deity who loved the world. Gu Mingming sat beside him and felt like she was about to convert to Buddha. The previous messenger of the beast deity is called Wang Xiaoxin. In your world, she is the honorary advisor of the Book of Changes Association. The reason I chose her back then was because she had a deep understanding of metaphysics, and her mission is to bring faith to the beast world. Gu Mingming digested the beast deity's words. Actually, before this living beast deity appeared in front of her, Gu Mingming was an absolute atheist. She never believed in gods or Buddhas. Otherwise, why didn't the gods and Buddhas show up to help her when she was suffering all those years ago? She thought that she was a kind person and had never done anything evil, but she was going to be abandoned by her parents and live a life of hunger and cold. But now, there was a living god sitting in front of her, surrounded by a halo, sitting cross-legged in front of her, chatting and explaining to her in a down-to-earth manner. This made Gu Mingming start to waver. Could she still say that there was no god in this world? Then who the F***ck was sitting in front of him? But even though she was shaken, the so-called metaphysics was just a scam in her heart. An honorary advisor of the Book of Changes Association? He's just a film that says what people say and what ghosts say. Chapter 602. F*******. Gu Mingming looked at the beast deity with a sullen expression. "Are you mocking me for being a bad student?" The beast deity shook his head gently. "Of course not. I'm telling you why I can't save Qi Xian." Gu Mingming pursed her lips. For her son, she would not mind even if he said she was born an idiot, much less mocking her for being bad at her studies. The beast deity continued smiling. When she came to the beast world, she was competing with a few top psychologists in hypnosis. Gu Mingming looked at the beast deity in surprise. Can hypnosis be competed? Find a few people, and see who can rush the others first? The beast deity shook his head. It was a few hypnotist masters. They entered the same room at the same time, and hypnotized each other. They were all professionals. It was not an easy task for anyone to hypnotize anyone else. A few authoritative figures who refused to submit to each other used this method to determine the winner. It was a little like a sword fight on Mount Hua, right? Gu Mingming glanced sideways at the beast deity. She chuckled. Deities also watch television dramas? Are you also a Jin Yong fan? The beast deity rubbed his nose. I want to choose a suitable person from that world to guide the people of the beast world. How can I do that without doing some research on that world? Gu Mingming snorted. Your method of research is watching television dramas? The beast deity cleared his throat. He was clearly a little embarrassed. But he was not angry. He continued. I used that hypnosis to bring Wang Xiaoxin to the beast world. But she thought that everything in the beast world was just the effects of hypnosis. She fought with all her might, trying to wake up from the hypnosis. She tried to find a way to free herself. In her eyes, she believed that everyone was a hallucination in the hypnosis. Gu Mingming frowned. She recalled Wang Xiaoxin's resolute and merciless attitude towards everyone in her memory. So it was not because she was cruel by nature, but because she believed that everything was an illusion. All the things she was unwilling to do, but still did, in the hope that she would not be able to withstand the torture and force herself to wake up. The beast deity continued. Afterwards, she became more and more crazy. If she was allowed to continue, she would destroy the entire beast world. So, I entered her dream and told her the way to free herself from this hypnosis. As long as she can do it, I will let her go. Gu Mingming's understanding of hypnosis was limited to the scenes in television dramas, such as forcing someone with amnesia to recall some past they did not want to face, changing other people's lives, and hypnotizing that damn fatty to dance in The Return of the Condor Heroes. The beast deity said, "She believed my words and thought that this was the key to breaking the hypnosis. So she did everything I asked of her. It's just that he used the most ruthless and cruel method." Gu Mingming looked up and said, "For example, having a son with the bloodline of a beast king with a cold-blooded snake beast, then using him as a key to transmigrate back to the present world." The beast deity nodded and said, "In the end, I still overestimated the term maternal love. It turns out that TV dramas are all lies. Not all mothers are willing to change themselves for their children." Chapter 603. The beast deity shook his head and said, "She is an expert in psychology. Even if it was me, she would be able to tell if I lied in front of her. So what happened to Snake is true." Gu Mingming frowned and remained silent for a while before asking, "So, did she go back?" The beast deity looked at Gu Mingming quietly and shook his head again. "She stayed behind for Snake's father." Gu Mingming stared at the beast deity in shock and frowned. Didn't she think that everything was an illusion? She could even bear to leave her own son, how could she? The beast deity was still smiling, but there was a tinge of disappointment in his smile. He said, "Are you interested to hear what happened after Snake was born?" Gu Mingming bit her lower lip, but still nodded. The beast deity said, "Snake's memory should have stopped when his father threw him into the cold lake?" Gu Mingming nodded to acknowledge it. The beast deity continued, "His father threw the snake egg into the cold lake in front of Wang Xiaoxin and told her that he was different from other males. He would not let her leave him just to grieve in silence because of her desire. He said that since Wang Xiaoxin had provoked him, she could forget about shaking him off for the rest of her life. If Wang Xiaoxin wants to go back, she can either bring him along or kill him." Gu Mingming lowered her eyes and remained silent for a moment. She thought of the black wolf at home. He had said something similar. "If this is a dream, please kill me before I wake up. Don't let me face a world without you alone. That is more torturous than death." The beast deity paused for a moment and did not continue. He just looked at Gu Mingming, who seemed to be deep in thought, as if giving her time to slowly recall. After a long while, Gu Mingming finally opened her mouth and said, "Since she was sure that everything was a hallucination after the hypnosis, then once she wakes up, Snake's father will definitely disappear. No one can bring a person from a hallucination into reality. If Wang Xiaoxin is a rational person, she will definitely think of this. Bring him away impossible. Kill reluctant. So she decided to stay behind." The beast deity chuckled and shook his head. "No, she decided to kill him." Gu Mingming was stunned. She looked up at the beast deity and asked, "You clearly said that she stayed behind for Snake's father." The beast deity gave Gu Mingming a reassuring smile before continuing. "She personally plucked off the scales protecting Snake's father's heart, then used her sharp claws to pierce through his chest. Snake's father's blood splattered all over Wang Xiaoxin's face. Wang Xiaoxin stared at the bloody hole in his chest and her own bloodied hand. On the other hand, Snake's father smiled and hugged her in his arms, kissing her tears and saying to her, 'This is good too, at least. Until death, I did not lose you.'" Gu Mingming widened her eyes, unable to say a word. Having inherited Snake's memories, she knew very well how stubborn the males in the beast world were towards love. Compared to death, they were more afraid of their beloved females being harmed. Back then, when Barit and Quentin knelt on the platform of the deity's punishment, they would rather be dried and skinned than move, because they were afraid that the person in their hearts would be punished. Later on, it was the same for Snake. Although Ellie's last bite was the poison from her suicide, Snake actually had a way to neutralize it. Aside from the topic, today's update was over. Chapter 604. However, the process of detoxification was a little complicated, and she would have to endure the pain of the poison for a long time. Furthermore, even if the poison was detoxified, without the self-healing ability of a beast king, her legs would still be crippled. So Snake gave his life to her, not to ensure that she would not die, but because he could not bear to let her suffer. That's all. Gu Mingming remained silent and did not speak. She only felt a tightness in her chest. She couldn't tell if it was because of Snake, or because of Snake's memory reacting to the entanglement between her father and mother. The beast deity patted Gu Mingming's shoulder lightly, then continued. The death of Snake's father was a huge blow to Wang Xiaoxin. She didn't understand why she felt so sad and painful, even though she knew it was an illusion. At that time, she was ill and couldn't get up. She closed her eyes but couldn't sleep. I knew that she wanted to sleep so that she could see me, so I helped her sleep and let her enter the dreamland to find me. Gu Mingming looked up at the beast deity, waiting for his next words. A trace of melancholy appeared on the beast god's face. He sighed and continued. She asked me if all of this was an illusion. I repeated what I had told her the first time we met. I told her that the serpent's egg was not broken. It was at the bottom of the cold pond. If she wanted to go back, I could help her retrieve the egg. But she shook her head. She said she wasn't going back. She wanted to stay in the beast world. Gu Mingming looked at the beast deity in confusion. She did not understand what Wang Xiaoxin was thinking. In order to go back, she would not hesitate to use her own son as a key. In order to return, she did not hesitate to kill her own male. But when everything was ready, she still wanted to stay. The beast deity looked at Gu Mingming and asked, "Unbelievable, right? I also feel very strange." So I asked her why she decided to stay. Her answer was, "I want to avenge whales." Gu Mingming looked at the beast deity speechlessly. The beast deity just smiled back at her quietly and said, "Whales is Snake's father, Wang Xiaoxin's male snake beast." Gu Mingming replied, "But didn't she kill him with her own hands? Who else do you want to take revenge on?" The beast deity nodded and smiled bitterly. "Look for herself." Gu Mingming was stunned as she looked at the beast deity in confusion. The beast deity continued. On one hand, she firmly believed that the beast world was an illusion. On the other hand, she was so tormented by Whale's death that she could not breathe. Her rationality told her that as long as she got rid of this hypnosis, she would be able to free herself from Whale's death. This was because after she woke up, she would gradually forget everything in the dream. But she realized that she wasn't willing to forget Whales. Even if the end result of her memories was this kind of torture, she still wanted to remember Whales, and wasn't willing to erase him from her heart. So he stayed and tortured himself to take revenge for Whales. Gu Mingming froze, and when she looked up, her face was already covered in tears. She asked the beast deity in a choked voice, "So Snake came to see me just now because he was afraid that I would torture myself like Wang Xiaoxin." It was not a question but a statement. Chapter 605. The beast deity gently wiped away the tears on Gu Mingming's face and said, "Since you understand his painstaking efforts, all the more you should pull yourself together. He will not be at ease if you cry like this." Gu Mingming slapped the beast deity's hand away and roared, "Then return him to me. Aren't you the beast deity? You should be able to bring the dead back to life, right?" The beast deity sighed and said, "Do you still not understand? I can't just interfere with the matters of the beast world." Gu Mingming said, "I don't understand." The beast deity said, "If I had not interfered back then and told Wang Xiaoxin that the beast king, who is related by blood, could become her key to transmigrating back, then the things that happened later would not have happened. She would still have met Whales and given birth to Snake, but she would not have pierced Whale's chest with her claws. Perhaps she would have loved her child like those mothers in television dramas, and willingly stayed behind to become a better guide. In these 1,000 years, I have been reflecting on this matter, but I still could not help but interfere with the matters of the beast world a few times. In the end, all the matters that I interfered with did not develop in the direction that I had hoped for, and the ending became increasingly bleak. This made me finally understand that everything in this world has its own trajectory. Destroying the original trajectory will not change things for the better, and will only lead to destruction." Gu Mingming stared coldly at the beast deity and said, "So you are just a damn television watcher. Everyone in the beast world is a serial on the television. Other than watching, you can't turn off anything else, right? You won't care whether others live or die, or how tragic their lives are, right?" The beast deity hesitated for a moment before nodding. Gu Mingming said, "Then what kind of god are you?" The beast deity was still smiling gently and said, "If a god has to solve every suffering, then what should a god do when he encounters suffering? All I can do is to guide him." Gu Mingming stood up immediately and said, "What the hell did you guide him about? You just guided Wang Xiaoxin to kill her husband and son, and finally torture herself to death?" The beast deity lowered his head and said, "Wang Xiaoxin brought faith to the beast world, and you brought hope to the beast world." Gu Mingming roared, "Hope my ass. I'm F*** king in despair myself. Who else can I give hope to? My son is unconscious now, and I don't know if he's dead or alive. I don't need him to recover immediately. Just tell me if there's a way to save him. But you're not even willing to tell me a way. And you're still talking to me about hope?" The beast deity looked up and accepted Gu Mingming's rebuke with a calm expression. He waited for her to finish her sentence like a machine gun before he said softly, "I can tell you how to wake Qi Xian up, but it will only result in him living a life worse than death. It may even implicate more people you care about. For example, Elvis, Leah, and the other 3 little wolves. Do you still want an answer that will make everyone suffer?" Stunned, Gu Mingming bit her lower lip tightly. If he had said that he would make her pay a terrible price in exchange for Qixuan's awakening, she would have agreed without hesitation. But why did it have to be Elvis, Leah, Hada and his brothers, and even Qixian himself who suffered a fate worse than death? The beast deity was still smiling kindly. "Don't worry, trust me. I will not let my grandson die like this. You will find a way to save Qixian, even if I don't tell you." Aside. Chapter 606. Gu Mingming was stunned. She even forgot about her tears as she stared at the beast deity. "Really?" The beast deity nodded. "Deities cannot lie. I can guide you, but I cannot give you an answer. As long as you have a benevolent heart, you will definitely find a way to save Qixian. Moreover, don't you have 2 males by your side who are willing to risk their lives for you? They will not bear to let you be so upset." Gu Mingming was skeptical. "Then, how long will Qixian be unconscious for?" The beast deity shook his head. I don't know either. It all depends on how hard you work." Gu Mingming clenched her fists. "I wonder what level the mighty beast deity is at. Can you take a beating from me? Who has the strength of a beast king?" The beast deity was taken aback. He suddenly laughed. "This is a dream. Your beast king powers cannot be used here. Moreover, I am just an illusion. You cannot hit me." Gu Mingming raised her brows. She swung her fist at the beast deity in disbelief. Indeed, it was as if she was waving her fist in the air. There was no resistance at all, but a wave of dizziness soon followed. Gu Mingming felt herself falling downwards. The beast deity's calm and amiable voice rang out above her head. "Don't worry, don't be afraid. Your father beast is with you." "I am with you." Gu Mingming sat up with a loud roar. Her eyes were bloodshot and looked frighteningly hideous. "Mingming?" Leah gently tugged at Gu Mingming's little hand. His face was full of worry. "Are you all right?" Gu Mingming looked at Leah, then at Elvis, who was standing by the bed with a face full of worry. She was stunned for a long while before she regained her senses. Closing her eyes, Gu Mingming leaned her head against Lee's chest. One of her hands was held by Leah. She used the other to gently massage her temples. "I am fine. I just had a dream." Leah stood up and knelt behind Gu Mingming. Then, he gently rubbed Gu Mingming's temples with both hands. Elvis sat in Lee's seat and held Gu Mingming's hand, saying, "You slept for 2.5 days crying and screaming, and woke up shouting damn you. And you still say you're fine?" Gu Mingming clenched her teeth and said, "It's nothing. I am just going to see the beast deity. This old thing actually used official language to brush me off." Leah stopped rubbing Gu Mingming's temples and asked hesitantly, "Did he do anything bad to you?" Gu Mingming lowered her head and did not say a word, her face gloomy. Leah bit his lower lip and said, "Is our family going to have another new male?" Gu Mingming was taken aback. She looked up at Leah with a face full of question marks. There was a tinge of jealousy in Lee's long and narrow eyes. He said with some resentment, "In your dream, you cried and said that you liked him and asked the beast deity to return him to you. You cried so loudly. Tell me, which male did the beast deity show you in your dream to make you fall in love with him so much after one night of sleep? I will help you find him." Gu Mingming's expression darkened. She lowered her head and kept silent for a long time before saying, "I saw Snake in my dream. He came to bid farewell to me." Elvis and Leah were also stunned at the mention of Snake. That person, even if they could really become a beast king in the future, they would never have the chance to win him. They would forever be the weaklings who would be intimidated by a single glance from him and be unable to stand up. Chapter 607. Gu Mingming repeated what happened in her dream to Elvis and Leah and came to a conclusion. Wait. Elvis and Leah worshipped the beast deity blindly. They said that since the beast deity said that he would guide her, then they should just wait for him to guide them. Gu Mingming was frustrated, but she could not think of a better solution other than waiting. Rubbing her temples, Gu Mingming asked, "Did anything happen during the 2 days I was asleep?" Leah and Elvis exchanged glances before Elvis said, "3 wolf pups came to see you, but I chased them away." Gu Mingming looked up at Elvis. Elvis cleared his throat and said, "I think you didn't want them to worry for nothing, so I just said that you were frightened in the Snake King Valley, and it was too tiring for you to rush back. So you slept for a while longer, and asked them not to disturb your sleep." Gu Mingming thought about it, and felt that Elvis's way of handling things was right, so she nodded, and did not pursue the matter. Leah continued, "During the time we were in the Snake King Valley, the people from the Snow Fox tribe were not very well behaved." Gu Mingming looked at Leah and asked, "Why? Want to overthrow me and welcome Cole back?" Leah was taken aback, and did not understand why Gu Mingming would think that way. He just shook his head and said, "No, they felt that the people from Saint Nazir must have some esoterica that you left behind, so they forced Oakley to hand it over. Oakley took advantage of the situation, and used this esoterica to threaten the few stubborn old foxes from the Snow Fox tribe. With Oriton and Barit's protection, nothing big happened, but there were many conflicts between the two tribes. The males were fine, but the females from the Snow Fox tribe, and the females from Saint Nazir, the smell of gunpowder was a little too strong. I heard that there were already a few fights, and there were casualties on both sides." Gu Mingming rubbed her temples and felt helpless. She originally thought that they were going to act, fighting the Qing and restoring the Ming. But in the end, they were going to act, "Why do women make things difficult for women?" Gu Mingming knew that although Leah was the witch doctor of the tribe, she had been gone for a month, and if she did not show up for all the trivial matters that had accumulated, Leah would have to spend 10 or even 20 times more effort to settle them. Sighing, Gu Mingming invited the few tribe elders into the meeting room. Gu Mingming sat on the main seat while Elvis and Leah stood on both sides. Barit and Oriton stood below Elvis, not saying a word. They just stood there quietly. Ian's injuries were slightly lighter than Elvis's and Lee's, so he was more or less recovered now. However, his face still looked sickly and listless, but he exuded a cold aura, which made others not dare to belittle him. Standing not far below Leah, he looked down at the few Snow Fox elders standing opposite Gu Mingming, who were clearly feeling uneasy. Gu Mingming chuckled. "Elders, you have worked hard during the 1 month that I was not around." The old men exchanged glances before one of them took a step forward and said, "It is our duty to share the burden of the great emissary. I don't dare to say that it was tough." Gu Mingming chuckled. Ever since she had a nap, why was it so annoying for people to talk official language to her? You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.